Alright, welcome back everybody. We're going to do a tomato review on this tomato right here, and this is called the Hazelfield Farm Tomato. And don't know that much about it offhand, but I'll leave whatever information I get in that description below. So, take a closer look at it. See, it's a beautiful flattened type of beefsteak. Appears to be getting, yellowish or greenish shoulders on here. I'm sure if you leave this out long enough, these shoulders will eventually disappear, usually. They'll just turn red eventually. But it's a beautiful flattened beefsteak. You can see what it looks like that. Isn't that gorgeous? And they get a lot bigger than this too. I've got maybe a half dozen on the plant. It's already late in the year. We're getting very close to October at this point, and most of the plants are dying. It's still got tomatoes on there, but they're all green still. Part of that is my own fault because I didn't get started until the middle of May, June with my tomatoes, and that was just way too late. Supposed to be getting started with tomatoes where I live at the end of March, April. So, but this year was really messed up with the frost coming and going. You don't. One day it's 60 or 70 degrees out. The next day you get a frost. We were getting a lot of that this year. So that's it right there. And let's start on a scale to to show you the weight, and then we'll cut it in half for you. We'll weigh it out for you. Zero it out. It's zeroed, and let's see what this one weighs. This one weighs about 4.7 ounces, roughly around half a pound. Yes, again, they can get a lot bigger than that. This is just, this is just one of the ones that were ready now. And I think I got a couple out there that might probably be a little bit heavier than that, probably more like 7 ounces. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, a little bit beefier, but they're all generally pretty flat like that. So let's cut this open and see what it looks like on the inside. We'll do it from my left side, and we'll do it right on camera. How's that for you guys especially? Cut that baby right in half. Wow. Gotta hold that, because if not, it's gonna end up on my floor, and I am not gonna be happy if that happens. Just give you a better look at the inside of that baby. Look at that. What a gorgeous looking tomato on the inside. Wow. It's quite seedy though. You can see there's quite a bit of seeds on there, so that seed rating right out the gate is going to be a little high. But it does have a good amount of thick fleshed walls of flesh. They're pretty thick. Seeds are definitely attached to the rind. That's a good sign. It's a good trait for a tomato when it does that. And just looks good. It looks very uniform. A little bit of wilding in the rind, so that it's got that open pollinated. It's not necessarily a commercial variety. So let's keep that in frame, and let's cut a piece off for our bricks test. Let's do a bricks. I want to taste this now. I'm dying to taste it. It's the first tomato that's coming off it this year. Oh, we got to do the bricks. The bricks. Always forgetting that bricks. Let's see what that bricks meter says. Oh, it's pretty high. It's a little above 6.5. Little above, guys. That's good. That's a good sign for a tomato like this. It looks juicy, man. Wow, this looks like a good tomato right away. Just by the looks of it, the inside of that is so perfect looking. Very, very gorgeous looking tomato. Very gorgeous. We'll probably grow it out next year again if I got room for it. I'm growing like 120 new varieties of tomatoes next year, so I may not have room to regrow this, but I might do it anyway. If it's that good of a tomato, I probably will, just for myself, not for review or nothing. Wow, that is good, guys. Whoa. That is good. I'm gonna eat this, and then I'm gonna give you my tally. I want to get these seeds out of here first of all. Now, it's a good idea to remove the seeds when I do these reviews, because the seeds, I can already tell you, are going to be much tangier. So if you remove the seeds, I can really taste the flesh of the tomato, and that's really what I want to taste. I know the seeds are going to be tangy. So we want to get the flavor of that flesh. That's where that's where it counts the most. because you're making sauces with it and stuff like that. And when you're eating it like sliced up on a hamburger or something, the seeds are just going to gush out anyway. So, all right, so let's give that a go and see what it tastes like. All right, we got our numbers. Break out the sheet. Make sure this is dry so we don't make a mess. That's why this sheet, it keeps getting ruined. I got to print this on plastic or something, because I keep ruining these sheets. I keep making them, and they're getting ruined after a couple of tomato reviews because the tomatoes just are gushed. All right. Wow, this is an incredibly good tomato, guys. This is going to rate very, very high. This is probably going to be rating up there as a top contender as far as flavor goes. Right out the gate, the sweetness, about 26, 27 on the sweetness. It was a very nice delivery of sweetness. It wasn't a sugary or a fructosey type of sweetness. It was a very milding type of sweetness. So when I'm referring to that sweetness, it's not always sugary in taste. It's the part that balances out that tangy flavor. When that tangy flavor is overwhelmingly tangy, that means that sweetness is low. It means there's just not enough of that sweetness in there. So as far as the sweetness goes, yeah, I'm going to put that at about a 26, 27, somewhere in there for the sweetness. It was just a little bit above average, and it was nice. It was a very nice effect that I got there. It went really well with the tangy. Now, the tangy part was a little on the high side. I'm probably going to put the tangy at about a 30 on the tangy, so it was a pretty good spread between the sweetness and the tangy, but it was nice. It was a very, very nice tangy delivery. And the tangy part was really working with the tomato flavor itself. So the tangy part was really delivering that tomato flavor. And boy, what a flavor this tomato has. Okay, so let's talk about that tomato flavor. Now, again, when we talk about tomato flavor, we're talking about how strong and prominent was the flavor in the profile. Was it lightly flavored? Was it very heavily flavored? That's what we're referring to. We're not referring to how good the flavor was. That's what I saved the overall rating for. But the prominence of this tomato was pretty prominent. It was a very, very accommodating flavor. It really had a way of really opening your eyes when it comes to that tomato type of an effect that you get when you eat tomatoes. And this one here, I'm going to rate this one up at about maybe 8, 8.5 on the prominence of that flavor. It was very, very present. It was from the time you ate it to the time you swallowed it, the flavor was constant. It didn't just fade in and out or anything weird like that. Didn't kind of like buckle around between the sweet and tangy part or anything weird like that. It stayed consistent from the time you eat it to the time you finish it. And it was delicious as far as the type of flavor it was. It was a very delicious type of tomato flavor. So again, we're going to rate that somewhere at about an 8 and 8.5. And again, we're talking about how prominent was that flavor. It was very present in the whole profile. Now, moisture was a little on the high side. We're going to go 7.5 on the moisture. It was a very wet and moist tomato. It was like eating watermelon, basically, and that was a really nice effect, though. I wouldn't have liked this tomato as much if it was any drier. That wet, juicy type of wet effect you get from this tomato was it was like you were getting two things. You're eating the tomato, and you're also getting like a tomato drink with it because it was just wet and slobbery and really, without that wetness, you ain't going to get the delivery package correct. That wetness is your delivery package. And so that wetness was absolutely needed to really bring that to the back of the tongue. It really worked the sides of my tongue as well, which isn't something I get too much when I do tomato reviews. I don't normally get from, like here's your tongue. Here's your tongue right here, right? There's the back of your tongue. Here's the tip of your tongue. Well, normally that flavor sensation is usually around this area. You normally don't get too much of it up here on the aftertaste. But this time I got it right up around the edges of my tongue where the flavor was savoring along with the back of the tongue. Still there even now as I do this video. Very, 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 very delicious. Yeah, that moisture, we're going to put that at about 7.5 on that moisture. It was a really good, it's above average, but guys, for a tomato like this, you got to have that wetness in there. As far as tardiness goes, I didn't detect any tardiness with it, so I'm not really going to said there may have been a little something, but I'm not even going to mention it. We'll just go 0 on the tardy. Undertones, we're going to go 0 on the undertones. I didn't taste anything earthy or anything like that. No wild flavors or anything, nothing like that. Texture was just about perfect on this tomato. I'm going to put this at about a 9.5. It's one of my highest texture rated tomatoes I think there is, next to number 10. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than a tomato like this. Look at the texture on that, guys. That is an absolutely dream-worthy texture. Flesh is fully been ripened all the way through. All that meat is nice and ripe. That's ready for sauce, fresh eating, anything you want to do. Texture was very high. We're going to go with a 9.5. I can't go anything less on the texture. Production, okay. Now, production part of it, unfortunately, wasn't the most productive. But again, that could be partly my fault because I didn't start until late in the year. And the blights were kicking in, and there's no rain. We didn't get rain for 2 months already. And so now it's just, and I don't water my tomatoes. I just put them in the ground and I let them grow. And they find their own water. But again, without that extra water, you're not going to get as many tomatoes or larger tomatoes out of it when you got a dry summer. You know, so, and that's basically what happened here this year. It was just almost no rain at all. And we just, you know, it doesn't help your tomatoes really develop those larger size tomatoes and everything. So as far as production goes, I'm going to go about average on that one. I don't want to downplay it. We'll grow it again next year. We'll see if we can really bring up the production on that. That's probably partly my fault for starting late, but we'll go average on that. I think that'd be fair enough for this tomato. I don't want to lower that number because it's going to bring my rating down. The rating for this tomato is going to be very high. Skins were pretty good. We're going to go about average, a little above average. You want to go 3 on the skins is fine. They broke up pretty nice. I didn't really have to chew anything. I may have chewed a little bit, but it wasn't like anything getting stuck in my mouth. Nothing awkward as far as that kind of a thing goes. It pretty much broke pretty good. And so, yeah, we'll go just slightly above average on the skins, and we'll say it's about a 3 on the skins. As far as seeds go, I'm going to go a little higher on the seeds because it does look like it's a pretty seedy variety. And so, normally with seeds, I normally rate most tomatoes as a 5, but in a case like this, I'm going to rate it a little bit higher. We're going to go with a 5.5 to possibly even a 6 on the seeds because, as you can see, there's a lot of seed chambers in here, and it does make up a good portion, or at least a third of this tomato is going to be seeds and gel and everything. So, yeah, there is a good amount of seeds on this one. And that could be good for somebody who's generally grown for seed like I do most of the time. Or if you're somebody who's making sauce, well, maybe you might want to try another tomato or just grow 3 or 4 extra plants so you got plenty of tomato after you remove the seeds. Just keep that in mind. Doesn't mean it's a bad tomato. It just means you have to change the way you're going to grow this tomato and or tomato plants so you can meet your demand. So how do I rate this tomato as an overall, 1 being the highest and 10 being the lowest? Well, I'm going to rate this as a 1.5 on a scale. This is one of the highest rated tomatoes of the year this year. I normally don't like to rate tomatoes, but this particular variety tomato, I really got to put a rating on it because it is an absolute must grow if you've never tried growing this variety tomato. It is absolutely delicious, guys. This is one of those tomatoes that it's not like, you know, a lot of people, for example, like the mortgage lifter. Everybody buys the mortgage lifter tomato, but yet I eat that tomato every year, and it's like, I'm not impressed with it, you know. Yeah, you make sauce with it, it's fine, but as far as fresh eating goes and being delectable, I'm not, you know, I'm not impressed. You know, as a lot of people brag about it, it's this, it's that. I've never been impressed. So, I mean, some tomatoes, in my opinion, are overrated just because of the name. It's got a big name that's been around for many years. And yeah, a tomato like this, which is an absolute winner in my book, with a superb and superior type of flavor, you get no credit at all. Nobody ends up buying it because they don't never heard of it before, and they don't know if the tomato is any good. And that's why I do these videos. So you give you an idea on what is a higher rated tomato. This is a very high rated classic flavor type of exquisite flavor. It's just, you can't describe a tomato this good. It is literally making my mouth water that I'm looking at that and I'm like starting to drool because it's so good of a tomato. I want to eat this, but I need it for sauce, so I can't, I can't, unfortunately, I already ate the other half. I'm going to save this part for sauce. I'm going to eat that with my boxcar willies. But yeah, this is going to be a 1.5, guys. I'd rate it as a 1 had that production been really good. I probably would have rated it as a number one. I would have put it up there with the Boxcar Willie. The Boxcar Willie is the number one rated tomato this year, which is one of the few that's going to be in the number one depository for a reason. And because it's always the tomato has a history with me, and it always delivers a good flavor. This tomato is working its way up into that history. I grew this for a couple of years, a few years in a row, 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and it keeps delivering that tomato. This is going to end up being a number one. This is one of those tomatoes that work their way up into my number one status. Absolutely a tomato I would recommend growing. All right, so what I'll do is whatever information I have on this tomato, I will put in the description below, and I'll also put it on my website. You can read about it here, or you can read about it there. I'll also include a link in the description below where you can go to the website and buy seed for this variety if it's something you decide that you want to grow. All right, so that's it. That was your tomato review for the Hazelfield Farm. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.